least he didn't go over there and push a button, so you do feel good about it not being you, right?
Operator error.
Right, it wasn't you.
I want to get started.
Yes.
Slides.
Just, if you need to change the slide, just say slide, and maybe you can do it manually. There you go. Old school.
There we go. All right, here we go. Board, Dr. Crawford, I last saw you folks in April. A lot has happened outside of normal. Ginning up and starting this year, this month, they're going to be doing these things called district vulnerability assessments. And I've sat through a couple of webinars on these, and they will notify Dr. Crawford, the board president, and give us 30 days notice into this thing called Sentinel. You may have seen that on CBS 19 the other night. It was a lead story out with John Scott and kind of went over what we have to do. It is a ton of documents. So we're working on that right now, but we could be notified anytime over the next 4 years. They're going to do 1,200 districts, and for a district our size, it will be 8 to 12 campuses at random on an algorithm. The good thing is we're getting ahead of this game with my team, and especially with IT and all the folks that have to put stuff in. Miss Orr, I'm going to be seeing her a lot because we will have to put in, like today's presentation, to this Sentinel repository for documents. But the good thing is TEA gave us 100% last year on all our intruder audits. A great job by my team, Dave back here, Bill, and Peter. We had 100%, no findings. Can't hear me? Oh, sorry guys. So we're at 100%, which is great. So that way you don't have to hear from me in executive session as to how we failed in a finding. This vulnerability assessment, they will be here for 2 to 3 days. There'll be 3 of them that come in. They will review the documents, and there's thousands of them that we have to present, anywhere from health stuff, behavioral threat assessments, EOP plans, you name it, and it's on a dashboard that rolled out last Wednesday. I messed around with it. We entered the calendar and all of our contacts for all of our principals and the school safety team. That was the easy part. One of the things that is in there is mandatory silent panic technology, and great kudos to Joseph Jacks, his entire team. We rolled this out 2 weeks ago and we tested it. 500 tests were done and we were about 95% successful, better than any vendor could ever do. And it will also include on every phone in every classroom, which we have up now, there's a number that the teachers and staff can dial in, and it goes immediately to law enforcement at the front desk and to my office, and that means get a law enforcement officer right now, right here. And it will say the extension and the room number. It's really neat, and this was designed in-house, and it saved us an absolute fortune, because these things are very expensive by the school, but in-house we did it for about $38,000, and we can have that for 6 years. Unlimited licenses. It also goes to your phones. I'm sure Dr. Crawford and the folks to my right were absolutely sick of getting the tests done, and there's still a few more to come, so they're still coming. So just a great job by IT and my team putting this together. The emergency operation plan will be delivered to the school safety committee next week. The only changes are when we meet. So it'll be the same, and that will be turned in September, along with the cybersecurity annex, which is brand new. We have one here that was done a few years ago by an outside agency, but they want to bring this down to their template, which is about 9 pages. The one we have here that IT uses about 90. So we've got to pick and choose what we put in that, and that will also be put into this Sentinel deal. In March, we got the SAFE 2 grant that came in, a little over $500,000, and it allows for anything safety related. So I got with Chief Brown and Assistant Chief Walsworth, and we replaced 4 cars that didn't come out of our general budget. But the majority of this money is going for this silent panic technology and this thing called BDA, bidirectional antennas. And that allows law enforcement and fire department to communicate in our schools. We've already done a test. Tyler High passed with flying colors, although it says failed, even though it was 98% successful. We've got to talk to the folks about that. The vendor did not give us a bid. They did give us a bid for the cellular coverage in these schools, and we can't afford $600,000. That's basically an antenna. However, TASB has come out and has contacted myself and Joseph Jacks through the state of Texas on a federal grant, probably with one of the major carriers like AT&T, T-Mobile, something like that, where they would put cell towers on our campuses, which will increase ours, but they'll also make money from the neighborhoods around there that use that cell tower. So that's kind of an interesting thing. We're going
I've
to
got
see
a couple
that.
of campuses that I will give them suggestions where it needs to be located.
Absolutely,
One of them off of Garden Valley.
correct.
Man,
Yeah, but here's the neat thing, guys, about that. Garden Valley, Bolter, was where we test drove this silent panic technology, the state-of-the-art stuff. It was only 80% successful, and guess what? The guys here, we were at 95% at literally no cost, because also the grant covered that. New thing that's coming is last week and the couple of weeks before, we met with all the crossing guards from the city of Tyler. All but one signed up for us, and we got 10 people at the last job fair that have signed up. So we should be good to go, all new uniforms, so they're happy with that. The problem is change. They're used to the city of Tyler, and now they're used to our rules. And those sign-ins, things like that, but we're working our way through that. My last slide talks about this formula grant. It now allows for cameras and door hardware. Door hardware is doubled. And my guys are required now by TEA twice a year to put a key in every lock at every campus and admin building to see if it works. We're pretty good, but it's very expensive. If you have a crash bar now that used to cost $600, they're $1,200 to $1,500, and you must replace those immediately. It used to be the exterior doors like we've spoke about before. Now it's every single door. So, and we only had about maybe 50 locks and less than a dozen crash bars that needed fixing. But that adds up, and thank goodness for the grant money. We still have over $200,000 in that grant. So we've got to use that judiciously, otherwise it's going to run out and it's going to come out of our budget. And that's all I have for you, unless you have any questions.
Questions, comments?
So just to comment on the silent panic alert, I just happened to run into Jason Keeling yesterday, and he was telling me about it. Sounds really cool, what y'all have done, and as someone who peddles that type of solution, that's pretty good that y'all were able to do that for that amount and the way you described it as working and everything. So again, kudos to the technology department,
Yes.
like you said, for getting that worked up. Do you know about how many man-hours it took on staff? I mean, and I wouldn't expect you to know, but if you could guesstimate or whatever, how much time did they have to spend getting all that?
They spent months, but it wasn't every day.
Mhm.
And then our folks went out over a 3-day period, so 4 of us went and tested it everywhere. So you have 4 days. And Cody, do you have any idea? I'm putting you on the spot. How long do you guys work on that?
I spent about 3 weeks reprogramming 1,850 phones. So that was my part.
And that was a big part of it. So I'm assuming Nestor and Jason about the same time, maybe a little bit more.
I will say, I've been very impressed with our security system overall since the implementation of it, about three years ago or so. We made a lot of progress, and we've been able to meet all the standards in light of all the changes that was coming out. So your department's done an excellent job, and I really, really appreciate that personally in regards to the safety of our kids and everything. All the things that you mentioned, especially the district vulnerability assessment, sound like it is a challenge, but I think that based on what you've been doing in the past, I think you'll be able to meet that challenge very well. So I don't anticipate anything less from that perspective. Crossing guards, I know that's new. So they are under you as far as you're their supervisor or that department or whatever?
The department head, yes.
Right, okay. Okay, so now this grant that you got, that doesn't include their salaries or anything. So that was a
It does
new
not.
item to your budget, right?
Right. Now,
Okay.
we just received the bill from the city of Tyler, and I believe it was about $271,000, Tasha? The annual fee?
For them?
So the reimbursement. is how-
We've always paid for the crossing.
crossing
guards.
guards.
They've just been paid
Managed.
we've paid the city of Tyler.
Uh-huh.
And they did all the payroll, they did all the coordination, they did all the hiring. That was
Oh.
an agreement from a long time ago. We've always funded it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not a new add to our budget.
Okay.
No, it's not a new.
Okay,
and
just the
in fact,
supervision
it'll-
of it.
It'll be probably less this year, because the numbers, when a crossing guard was ill or called in, just not feeling good, we had to get traffic engineers out there, and we had to pay them overtime. And I
Ah.
believe the overtime this last year was about $20,000.
Mm.
And that was written in 2007, we've been doing this.
Yeah, we're just, without getting into the details of how this was all formulated, this was 25 plus years of them managing that. And they always had a right of refusal inside of their agreement with us, and they chose to exercise that right of refusal in 2024. Actually, they want to do it in 2023. It's like, whoa, can you do it? Give us a year to kind of land the plane. So basically, we're taking on the payroll responsibilities of that. We're taking on the HR responsibilities of that. We're taking on the hire, well, HR is hiring, but
Yeah.
the management of personnel now. They left it to us a lot to say, hey, we need to put one here, need to maybe reduce
Yes.
one here or there. And then those individuals would go and, because they've been doing it for umpteen years in a row, it's like clockwork, they would go and complain to their HR department. Well, they're out of the mix now. It's all on Tylerized.
Yeah. And most of these folks are really good people.
Yeah.
I mean, they take it that the staff and the kids are their grandkids and children.
Okay, sounds good. And the other thing is the $50,000 grant. I think that was great, man. If we continue to do that, every time we get a grant, I think we save money within the district that we don't have to obligate our money for, and that saves a lot. So that's wonderful in doing that. So there is. So, hey, continue doing good work.
Thank you. We will.
We appreciate it.
There's no choice with TEA coming.
Agent Millsagel, just to wrap this up, just by a facial expression, show the board how much you and I appreciate the double parenting that has gone on between the Texas Education Agency and the Texas School Safety Center from the Office of Redundancy at the state of Texas. Redundant redundancy. Yeah.
I'm about follow up on that real quick. Our district audit report was sent in October. I presented it to you way back then. It passed. Everything was fine. 3 weeks ago, the superintendent and I got an email from the Texas Board of Auditing wanting my backup documentation for this. There's 2,000 photographs. It won't upload. So my team got together and we culled it down to a document that Tammy is about to send to me, and I'm going to send it to them. And at last count, it was 1,250 pages. So they get to read it. They get to read my handwriting.
Yeah. You know,
The government is here. We're here to help you. No.
Yeah.
and they're probably not going to review it, unfortunately.
We
You go through
tried
all
to
that work
send-
unnecessarily.
You're right. We tried to send about 20 pages, Dr. Crawford and myself, and they said, no, that's not enough. We want the underlying documents.
I mean, I think that's going to be something that here in the future, we've got some good relationships down there. They're going to have to consolidate.
I believe that that is coming.
Yeah.
They rolled it out, and the Texas School Safety Center was in shock at their own conference. They didn't even know this was being rolled out. a week after the conference. They surprised them, and there was a lot of heartburn.
School safety is the most important thing that we can do. There's no doubt about it, keeping everybody safe. But we've got to cull this stuff and collaborate a little bit better. It's driving districts crazy. It's not just us.
It's not us.
Just wanted to make that statement.
Well, we thank you and we appreciate you. I'm sure as school is starting, that we are glad that we have a team of individuals such as yourself, because if I was in the classroom, that would want to be my least worry. I would want to worry about anything else but safety, and you made it easy for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and I'll share that with everybody with me.
Please do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have, come on down, Dr. Gropel, State Compensatory Education Program Evaluation.
As part of an annual requirement from the state of Texas, the board will be receiving in public this update on the state comp ed program review, along with some opportunity for public and board comments. Dr. Gropel?
Good morning, Board of Trustees and Dr. Crawford. As Dr. Crawford shared, this is our annual report on usage of state comp ed funds. Later, y'all will be considering approving state comp ed usage for this upcoming year. That'll be a later agenda item in this morning's meeting. So I'll get into this. Let me see if this works. Hey, look at that. There we go. So just an overall definition, and I'm not going to read that to you there, but the basic premise of state comp ed is to reduce the number of high school dropouts and economically disadvantaged students and at-risk students. That does not mean that state comp ed funds are only used at the high school level. Rather, they can be used pre-K through 12 just to ensure that our students that primarily come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds as well as at-risk backgrounds are crossing the stage as high school graduates in Tyler ISD. So you can see there, we roughly spent about roughly $11.7 million this year in two different buckets there with state comp ed funds. You have our direct costs, which is the vast majority of the funding that we spend, but it has to be at a minimum of 55%, but we far exceed the direct cost minimums there. And then the indirect costs associated with that's going to be modifying some of the regular ed programming, as well as some items that are not directly relate to instruction and that sort of thing. But again, we spend, I would say, north of 85 to 90% of the state comp ed funds through direct costs, primarily through salary of teachers, as well as we employ master teachers, instructional coaches at the campus level. That comes from this bucket of money, as well as our RISE campus and our DAP campus. A lot of the funding comes from state comp ed directly in this. Campuses get a little pot of money that we support through my office for after school and intervention programs, primarily in the spring. And that comes from this pot of money as well to provide after school tutoring, as well as hiring additional intervention that may happen throughout the school day. Again, all geared towards ensuring that we have a lower number of high school dropouts in our economically disadvantaged and at-risk populations. So this slide, you can see the graduating class of 22 compared to the graduating class of 23. Obviously, a little bit of lagging data from the agency. We'll next year report 23 and 24. But you can see an increase in our graduate rate in all student groups at risk, our emergent bilinguals, homeless, and then Title I. Title I being any student that comes from an economically disadvantaged background. So very, very good progress there. I mean, obviously we want all those numbers to be 100, but very proud of the hard work of our staff, K-12, in ensuring our kids get across the stage. Not just a high school accomplishment, but an accomplishment by all of our staff. And then as we look towards 24, 25, already started the process of evaluating how we'll utilize some of specifically the indirect costs once the budget is adopted beginning September 1, of how we continue to monitor school improvement as a district, how we focus on our campus that have the highest student needs and ensuring that we're focusing on the, lightning fast and Tyler improvement process. Campus principals are utilizing that through their campus improvement plans, which you'll see in August, as well as the district improvement plan, and utilizing not just STAR data ratings, but all data points that we had from last school year. Obviously, the STAR ratings will be released here in the next few weeks, so a big data point for us as a community, making sure that we're winning that game, because that's an important game for us, and making sure that all of our kids are being successful. I draw your attention to that last bullet there of the On 3 by 3 initiative. This is the second summer, and I feel like a little bit more robust this summer, of providing a literacy-specific camp for a group of 6 campuses focused on kindergarten students that showed high growth, but had a lower starting point in the year. What we found as we looked at data was our kids that made the highest growth throughout the year had the biggest percentage of summer slide. So we really targeted that group of students for a 4-week, 2 weeks in June, 2 weeks in July summer camp with some of our best teachers, ensuring that we try to close that gap on summer slide specifically for those kids moving from kindergarten to first grade, which is where we saw the greatest regression in their performance from end of year kinder to beginning of year first grade. So really wanted to target that group of students to help promote a higher level of literacy. So like I said, second year we've done that. This year was a little bit more refined and robust than last year. And the funding of that came through state comp ed, and something we hope to continue in our offerings and progress towards student achievement. And that's all I have on slides. I'll take any questions you might have.
Comments, questions?
Do you know approximately what the total number of graduates was, 23?
For 23, I want to say we're running about 1,200 to 1,300 in that ballpark between all 4 campuses. That's a rough estimate. Don't quote me on that.
So the dropout.
I'll look to Mr. Jones, that oversees the high schools. Okay.
About right.
So the dropout at 0.8% is probably 2 to 3, 4,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very small number. It's a handful at least.
I think on that one slide, it had 2% of continued kids in one of those metrics.
Yeah,
So just because they don't graduate
doesn't mean they're leaving us. Yeah,
redshirt year, 5th-year seniors,
yeah.
6-year seniors. But, I mean, the state recognizes that that's important to keep those kiddos engaged, and that's why it's part of the data metric there. And we can, I don't know what it takes to get us what we typically get, but they get rolled into the graduates of their cohort year, or do they count as that year graduate, right?
Count as that year graduate.
So pick them up another year
Mhm.
in a different year.
Okay. Relating to the dropout rate, so these are just for this group of students. What about the district overall as far as dropout rate and graduates? And
So that column that says all students is the overall district
Our
graduation.
district?
The entire district,
So-
yes, sir.
So we're below the standard for the state, right? Is that correct?
I don't believe so, no, sir.
Oh. So it's lower than that for the state standards? Dropout rate?
How about
I
what
can
the state is producing on dropouts?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, we're well above the state average.
We
Is that what
exceed
you're
the state
asking?
average.
Well, our average is better than theirs.
Correct.
Right, that's
Yes.
what I was, that's the point I was trying, okay. Yeah, so that's a good thing. Question back on the first page, I guess it is, looking at, no, it's the second page, talking about the direct cost versus indirect cost. Looking under there, you have salaries for teachers, at-risk students, and smaller class sizes. What do you mean by that, smaller class sizes?
That's where we'll pay for our, I'm looking at Tasha to confirm, but
Like, say we have a teacher that only has 12 kids,
Uh-huh,
have 2 classes like that.
right.
At a grade level.
You can check what
One of the teachers,
can come out of that
we kept the class.
if you keep the class size that way.
We did that for like. We
Great.
kept the class sizes like-
Okay, so we had about 6 classes that we were able to make it smaller in that regards. Was this,
Well, it would really be 12.
well, when you combine both of them? So was that, what grade levels were we looking at?
Various, they're all elementary.
All elementary. That's wonderful. Didn't know that. That's great. And because that's, as some of you know, that's been one of my concerns in regards to elementary in particular, is looking at the class sizes. So knowing that we had some. Now, in regards to those classes being smaller, and since we have some that may have 12 students and whatever, do we look at any of the outcomes in relation to those classes or?
We have not looked at those individual classes and their outcomes compared to their peer groups.
I think that would be great. That would be great to look at, because that's one of the things that I'm concerned about, and we talked about this several times, in regards to the outcomes of larger classes versus smaller classes, and if there's a difference. And I'm continually being told that it's not, and I feel like that it is. But, so we can look at that data that we have, if we have to have those classes there, we can actually compare those with the regular 22 students classrooms and see if there's a difference in the outcomes, and I think that would be great to have information regarding that. That would be wonderful.
We can pull together that data.
Yeah, okay.
But just because we're able to charge it to state comp ed, doesn't mean if we go all in and do more classes like that,
Right,
that we get more money.
No, we don't get-
We're fixed on our income on
Right.
state comp ed. It's just, right, it's just a strategy that we can count it against state comp ed funds if it does occur.
Yeah, these are, the bullets listed there are the qualifying things that fall under,
Right.
could qualify under.
And
state
we've
comp.
chosen to do this because we didn't want to disrupt, because we budgeted, we projected on, we thought that there was going to be 22 kids to show up at X elementary campus in this grade level. And instead of disrupting that and combining those classes and maybe sending those, especially from a high-risk load campus, we've held them harmless on that. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. So I think there's two competing things on that as far as budget goes and how we've tried to project on that versus this occurring naturally and being an actual initiative.
Right.
Okay. Right.
And that's the way all our, like special ed, bilingual, all the money we get through. Grants just goes to, so if we were gonna spend more on that, it would just back to the regular.
Right. Okay.
well, my concern wasn't about the actual cost of it, it was more about the academic outcomes associated with these group of students. So that was my major concern and question, okay?
I can pull that data together and see.
Okay,
see what
that'd
we
be
see.
great, thank you.
I like the 3x3. Are you guys considering another grade level, like maybe fifth graders going to sixth grade to see if you can help with the summer slide? Or are you just considering the K going to first?
So we've had some discussion about expanding to K1-2, but we hadn't had any discussions about moving beyond the second grade. What we found in some of our research is that getting kids to read on grade level by third grade is the greatest predictor to their academic success. And so our focus has really been on the early grades. Ensuring kids are reading on grade level by third grade is kind of been our mission with that. We had not considered that was something we definitely can consider, but our focus has really been on the early grades. As we looked at data from Dr. Cureton, again, going back to what I talked about with the kinder, we really see a bigger regression in the early grades in the summer slide than we do the older grades. They're more flat in their what their beginning, middle, and end of year looks like, where you see some just really great gains with our early grades and then a level of regression in the summer. But the level of regression in the summers is typically higher in the early grades from what we pulled of our data over the past 3 years.
And I'm glad that you left the classes with the 12 and didn't, it's kind of hard as a teacher to
Yeah.
combine classes and do that, so that was awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, comment in regards to, I agree with the philosophy of getting the literacy within, K through third grade or whatever. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I think that we have to somehow address those students that are in middle school that still can't read. Are we doing anything to identify those students, and are we working with them, any special programs or anything to?
So, yes, we have several different intervention programmings at the middle school level. We're utilizing a program this upcoming year called Read 180 that will help support the growth of reading for our middle school students, specifically targeted towards their skill level and their deficits that they may possess as readers at the middle school level. It's different, obviously a different skill set that they're going to need to be able to adapt to a higher level of content and a higher level of rigor in what they're expected to read as a seventh grader as
Right.
opposed to as a second grader. And so the programs are focused differently, but both geared towards ensuring kids are reading, ensuring kids that are trying to get kids to read on grade level, regardless of what grade they're in. But definitely the intervention plans, and it may vary a little bit from campus to campus, but each campus is going to have some level of intervention plan around ensuring kids are reading on grade level or closing reading gaps that they may possess as they enter middle school.
Okay. And once they get to that middle school and even high school level, are we assessing the success of those programs and which ones, identifying which ones, since they vary from campus to campus, determining which ones are the most effective possibly in helping these kids learn
Yes, sir.
how to read? Because, if they can't read, they can't be very successful in middle school or high school because
sir.
they can't interpret the information. And then now with all the testing that we're doing, the STAR testing changing, and they have to be able to read,
Right.
even to do math, So that's going to be a factor. I think that if we can help in somehow figuring out what's going to work best to help some of these kids that are behind and really implement those things, we can come out better in our outcomes as far as in middle school and high school. But if they're going from elementary to high school to middle school and can't read, that's how our scores continually drop, I think, based
Well,
on the inability. They can't do it. They just
Right.
don't have the ability to do it.
Like I said, the Read 180 program will be new for us next year. It's a program that I've used in a previous district with our middle school level kids, and we had a lot of success with that. So excited to implement that at the middle school level.
Great.
Thank you. We appreciate all the work that you guys are doing to try to help our students become better readers, which means they'll be better leaders. So we thank you.
Correct. Thank
Anyone
you.
else? All right. Budget update.
So we're in the process of the annual schedule of budgeting. And today's an important day because we have deadlines. That's why we had to have a workshop on August the 1st, is because we have deadlines per statutory requirement to get tax rates posted and budgets presented, and all culminating in a budget adoption later this month.
Right.
So we're going to have Tasha Bjork, our Deputy Superintendent of Finance and Operations, to provide this report to the board.
I believe I presented to y'all at the June board workshop, and not much has changed, but I'll go over it one more time. Just there was a shift between tax revenue and state revenue, but I'll go through it. So now our state revenue is about 47.8 and property tax 48.6, so they're almost equal now. We were like at 51% local last time I presented. The state formula revenue, we have an increase in ADA and WADA from our prior year budget, about 1.7 million. We had an increase in our hold harmless, going to the 100,000 exemption on homes, and that was about 1.4 million in increase. However, because our values went up, Our local share increase, meaning state revenue decreased 4.7 million. So in state revenue, we have a decrease of about 1.6 million. Now, our local property taxes, last time I presented, they were 13% up, but after appeals and so forth, it's now 9%. But the tax rate decrease stayed the same. It's going to be the 0.6669. That did not change because we are at the floor. And that, our local property taxes increased 4.9 million. And that would have been great if we could leave it there. But our federal revenue, our SARS is going to go down about 2.1 million and possibly even more from what we're hearing. And ESSER's gone away, so the indirect cost reimbursement we get from that each year was around 1.8, so that's gone. That's about a $3.9 million decrease. So we have other revenue, just various, that's an increase of almost $1 million. But we're pretty well breaking even with last year's budget, a little increase of 151,000. Now, as far as expenditures, it's pretty much the same as what I presented last time, that we're doing the teachers and RNs get their pay increase based on if they move from one band to a new 5-year band. And then we're doing some salary adjustments due to market and the new FLSA standards, maintenance and custodial restructure. We decreased middle school teachers by 8. And decrease in workers' comp and unemployment. That was a decrease of 176,000. As far as instructional and instructional support, you can see it's just minimal, not much to it, a decrease of 523,000. And then these are our departments. Just various things, the alarm budget, technology, utilities, property and casualties going up around 400 to 500,000, which that's unusual for us. It's been pretty steady. And so that is altogether an increase of 850,000. And so we have a balanced budget. Our expenditures are going up by the same amount of revenues. And this packet that you have this in your packet, this is just a detail of everything I went through that you can look through. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, comments?
Okay, I have a question, and it may be included in this, but I didn't actually see it as a line item per se, because it was an issue at the last meeting regarding if we lose funding from the federal government, how we take care of things within that situation. And in particular, they were talking about the food service aspect of it. If we do not receive funding from federal government for food services, do you have any idea how we would take care of it internally?
Ms. Bjork, let me answer that question.
Okay.
Since this is public record,
Yeah.
and I'll answer that question as politically as I possibly can. We're a long way from that. And so all of this pants on fire stuff that's going on out there, that's what that is. It's not embellishment, but it is a little bit of hyperbole whenever you start thinking about that happening. Because what's going to have to happen, there's going to be a lot of school districts that are going to have to go through that. That's going to have to be a state thing. That's going to be a state fought thing. And right now, it is tied up in the courts. So the resolution that this board adopted was in opposition of the encroachment of boys playing in girls' sports, the encroachment of boys going into girls' bathrooms, and the encroachment of boys going into girl locker rooms. What you said in the resolution was that how dare the feds penalize a school system of its most needy kids to get this agenda through. So it's gotten tied up in the courts now, and it's going to be hung up in there, and then who knows if it'll ever get there. You're asking the question of what we would do to make that happen. It would be through the normal budget process of having to cull things out so that we can continue to do the things that we want to do. Yes, there are Vader elections out there as well that you could put in front of your community, but I don't think any of us want to do that right now in the current inflationary economy that we do have. So I'll just say that it'll be a process to go through that to where we've got to cull out enough money in our current revenue. It's what everybody does, and when your costs go up in your own household, you'll have to go back and figure out a way to do that. Do we run, instead of having 17 football coaches, I'll just use these as an easy example, maybe we go to 9 football coaches. So there's going to be some things in our budget process, if we ever got to that point way down the road, that we would have to make decisions about. You always prioritize what's important to you in a budget, and that's what we would have to do then. So, what would we do specifically? We don't have a plan for that right now because that's a long way away.
Okay, I really appreciate that because so many people were concerned about it. And I think an explanation was needed.
Sure.
In that aspect to make sure people understand that we are taking care of business the way we should be.
Absolutely. Ms. Bjork, are we going to receive dollars to feed our kids this year, this budget year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? In all thy getting, get an understanding. Thank you so very much.
Hey, Ms. Atkins, one.
Oh, sorry.
Not on that right there, just real quick on some interesting things that are inside of that budget proposal just now. When you talk about values, there is a local school system 2 counties over to the east. It starts with the county starts with a P. We have a superintendent there that we know very, very well. Their values decreased by 35% for this coming year. Lots of minerals over there, lots of oil and gas, dead dinosaurs underneath the ground that are providing traditional, for years, the values over there have been incredible, but they're dealing with that right now. So we're in a pretty good, even though we don't like where we're at right now because we have not gotten an increase from the state legislature here in the basic allotment since 2019. There are some other school systems that are really struggling. I think another school system, very small rural one, 50% decrease in values because their home values have dipped under the $100,000 mark. So you've got some of these 1997 model trailers that people are living in that have dipped under the $100,000 threshold that may also claim an ag exemption because they have a few goats on it. And so there's some folks that are really struggling in East Texas. We're very blessed to be in Tyler and appreciate y'all considering this budget.
Any more comments?
One more thing.
Okay.
Insurance was another thing that was on there. Got a little bit of experience in this in my past professional life. One thing that went up it's an intended consequence, but it's also unintended a lot if you know anything about school finance and insurance, is the replacement value of a building. So you just brought online Early College High School and Hubbard, modern technology, versus what you used to have at both of those locations or some of our older buildings that we had. And the replacement value of those buildings now, even since we've built, I wish Loper was here today, but he's working, he's hanging out with his maintenance and custodial crew today. Even what we passed them for and what we built them for, guaranteed maximum price, there's already something like a 30% increase in the cost of replacement value. So if a tornado hit today and hit Early College or Hubbard and it was gone, it's going to cost you 30% more, if not more, to rebuild those facilities that you built, combined for $90 million. So it's going to wind up being 140 million to actually replace those buildings. So that's what's going to be in your insurance cost once that comes to us
Yes, that will be in the August.
in the August regular meeting. Yeah, here in about 18 days or so. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Tasha.
The next few items, in case there's any explanation, are mine too.
Yeah.
They're for approval though.
What's that?
The next few items?
Yeah.
I'm just
She's the
gonna
next
sit
one.
here.
That's fine.
Okay.
What are you looking at me for? You know what you're doing.
we have some action items. The first one is consideration of the purchase of attendance credits.
Okay, this relates to Chapter 41, and we're evaluated for that every year based on our values, but we have not really ever, I think one year we had to pay back maybe 80,000 or something, but the past couple of years, we haven't been subject to it once all is said and done.
Yeah, Chapter 41, remember, it's the colloquial term is Robin Hood.
Good, yeah.
It's been around for about 3 decades now. That district that I spoke of that's to the east actually may not be a Robin Hood district this year. They've been paying at least $10 million a year back to the state since its inception. And so if you know the district that I'm talking about, that is located in Panola County, that's an incredible statement to kind of the chaos that's occurring within the school finance formulas right now, including the compression of tax rates, the homestead exemptions and things like that, that are all well-intentioned by our state legislature, we think, for the local taxpayer. It's helped every one of us on this table. But at the same time, as far as school funding goes, it is certainly a precarious time for school finance.
This is basically just an agreement saying that if we have to give money back, they're just going to net it out of what we receive. That's all it is.
We wouldn't have to send a check back to the, nah, that's good.
Motion to approve delegating contractual authority to the superintendent to purchase attendance credits.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Second one, consider approval of board meeting date for purpose of adopting budget and proposed tax rates.
This is a required approval and I forgot to go over the tax rate. It's the same as it was in June when I discussed it's a 5-cent decrease. It's going from 96 cents total down to 91 cents. And so we have to publish this. We're publishing next Wednesday, just to say the board meeting is going to be August 19th. It's a public meeting, and this is the tax rate that we're pushing forth for approval. And we just have to have you approve that date and the tax rate to be published.
I move we approve August 19th as the board meeting date for adopting the budget and proposed tax rate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. C, consider approval of proposed budget and expenditures for state compensatory funds for the 24-25 school term.
This is what Dr. Gropel was discussing. We have to show what we've spent the money on this past year and then what we're projecting for next year. And we don't really change it that much because we're limited. It's about the same amount of money every year. But we pay for RISE and DAEP, any AVID, pre-K, summer programs, technology devices for remote learning, and then all the staff that we've listed. And then the next year is pretty much the same.
Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve proposed budget and expenditures for state comp funds for 24-25.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. D, consider approval of district innovation plan amendment.
So our resident expert on the District of Innovation Plan is Mr. Ron Jones, Deputy Superintendent Chief of Staff. You may want to grab a microphone and put it in front of you if you got any questions. But this is a second reading of that adjustment of the District Improvement Plan, our District of Innovation Plan, specifically focus on a personnel item, one personnel policy, and then one is on the SHAC, the return of the SHAC. So we've got Mr. Jones here for any questions if you may have any.
Mr. Jones, I missed the last meeting. Can you just give us a quick refresher on what they were?
Absolutely. There are two amendments to the current plan, and one deals with the SHAC committee. The whole purpose of the DOI plan is to give the local governing board the ability to govern their district, and that's what this is about. So right now, we are part of SHAC, and we have to attend several meetings throughout the year, and basically it's like pulling teeth to get people to those meetings to have a discussion about the agenda at hand. For the most part, SHAC is designed to discuss curriculum changes to the health curriculum in the district. And so there are not always changes to that. And so you're basically just meeting to be meeting and then pulling people in there. So this is our opportunity to basically take ownership of our own curriculum for health and using our PTA board as that committee when necessary. And so that will help Nurse Fox get back some of her time, and not have to attend mandated meetings that have no merit at the end of the day. That's the first thing. Second thing is basically providing the district an opportunity when there is a need, and only when there is a need, to have an employee, a professional employee, placed on administrative leave to designate that leave as non-paid as opposed to a paid vacation in certain instances. And of course, that will be utilized on as needed, but definitely not just all of the time. And if there is an instance where someone is placed on non-paid leave and it turns out that the investigation determines that there were no wrongdoing, then they will be paid for their time off.
Let me add a little extra to that. Our attorneys are in the room today, and they frequently deal with us when we're going through some personnel management to where someone has retained counsel, and they interact with that counsel on behalf of the board and on behalf of the school district, to where we may go weeks in negotiating some type of agreement, exit agreement with someone, and then before you know it, you're looking up a month, maybe even 6 weeks worth of these communications on their behalf, which is probably a strategy, not on our behalf, but on their behalf. It's probably a strategy, one of their tactics to extend that. So that's really what we're asking for here. It's in our policy now to be able to do that. However, you have to have
A hearing.
in order to enact that. So the request on our DOI is to actually go through this and have that tool at our utilization, so that we don't sit here and, again, pay for someone who's strategically working on trying to milk this when they know that they're probably going to need to resign.
Yeah, and just FYI, when a non-professional employee is placed on administrative leave, it's always non-paid. It's always non-paid leave.
Any more comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
Wait, I have a question, Shaq. Being in healthcare, I know that it's important that we do take that under consideration in making our policies and advisement. I'm having a problem with the PTA council doing that, as far as the district PTA council. Explain to me what that is.
The
district
PTA
PTA council.
The PTA council, it's the membership of all of the schools in the district that have PTAs, and their membership and the principals. That makes up the PTA council. So all of our campuses now have PTAs.
So they're officers.
PTA officers and for all of our campuses, and so that's what make up the council of PTA. So that would be our parents, and if need be, then that would be expanded to include others in that conversation at that particular time.
Yeah, I'm having a problem with the PTA council because I personally don't feel like they were very effective. Now, they may be much more effective now than they were before, but when I got on the board, I remember that several of our campuses didn't have PTAs. And therefore, from my perspective, they were not doing a very effective job at managing PTAs. And to put this underneath them as well, I have a problem.
Well, let me just interject real quick.
Explain it, because you got to convince me.
You had certain campuses that did not have PTA, did not make the PTA council ineffective. We've had a great PTA council here as long as I've been here. They've helped us pass bond elections. They've helped us assist other campuses that have struggled with their PTAs. So I don't think the PTA council has been ineffective. We've had some dormant PTAs. We have some poor leadership at individual campuses that did some things they shouldn't have done that caused a campus or two. But being pervasive district-wide, which sometimes we don't get our focus on district-wide, we get very acute on the certain campuses. That's probably what we're saying. The PTA council's done a good job on helping us recover those campuses to get them to that point. Is made important. As far as healthcare relationships, anytime we have a relationship, we go to usually it's Christus, because that is the agreement that we have when we need assistance in a lot of our initiatives. We've had some things where we've actually gone through the vaping era that we had here, that we had a lot of interaction with our local hospitals to be able to do that. So that's been one thing. Another thing is our human sexuality courses, or our the curriculum that addresses that, right?
Correct. That is correct.
And so that's what Mr. Jones is saying, is we haven't had a whole lot of participation. We ask somebody to sign up and they might show up for one meeting and then they just ghost us. With a PTA council, you have a committed group of individuals that have committed to be a part of that group. And if we have an issue that we need to work on, they can work on it, and we can pull in outside agencies to work on that. So I guess that's the better explanation for that, is just saying that,
That's it.
that they're going to just,
Yeah.
we're going to have this and not ever work on shack type of stuff again.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I'm not convinced that they are the best entity to actually put this particular group under, because even with the council and considering what they have done, and I think that some of the PTAs are very effective and very supportive and very productive. If they are a council, I have a problem with a council that works together with entities, and they are not aware of when those entities have problems, and to address those problems and make it aware that it can be resolved without state having to say that you can't exist. And from my explanation of why we didn't have PTAs, it was a state decision based on what was going on at that particular campus with the PTA. PTA council should have been aware of that and should have addressed it some way to keep state from having to make that decision. So I'm saying that, yeah, they may be very effective on some areas, but in an area of management and oversight and encouraging and support, I'm having a problem, okay? I'm just being honest.
We can
and with this-
respectfully disagree, because I think the
I
PTA
know,
council
I
has done a
understand.
really good job.
I think they have overall, but when you come in and you have 4 or 5 schools that don't have PTAs, and they're in the PTA council supposedly, and the state has to tell them that they have a problem and disband them, the PTA council should have been aware.
I think the individuals that were on those officer spots in
Okay.
PTA and the principals that are no longer here were the problems, not the
Okay.
PTA council.
Okay.
So I think that they're not responsible for oversight.
Yeah.
I am. And that, again, those individuals are no longer with us. So, we're going to disagree about that. Again, I don't want to get down in the weeds on the shack thing. As far as outside entities go, they certainly can bring us their issues. If we've got the net health, if they've got an issue, they need to work with us. It's usually the other way around. Whenever we see issues, that we go to those wraparound agencies and we ask them for help. For lack of to kind of get this down to a vote, it's our staff that's asking for this, because they spend an excruciatingly amount of time trying to get people to come to these meetings. Is that correct, Mr. Jones?
That is correct.
And to sustain any type of momentum that might occur with things that are valuable for our school system and things that get pulled out of the air because they watched an Alphabet Network special on X, Y, and Z. Oh my gosh, look what's happening in our schools. When it's not even our schools' issues that should be dealing with this. It's actually other nonprofits, other agencies that should be dealing with this stuff. So I guess that's the best way to cull it down to that.
That's the best way to do
And
it.
the solution was to ask our PTA council to meet statute, to have a group that can look at these things and work on those things. Was that what we're proposing?
That
I
is
think we're
correct.
clear on what's going on here and the issues, so I think we need to just vote on it.
Motion?
Motion.
Question. I have another question regarding the other component that we're talking about, the paid and non-paid designation of people that was going to be put on probation or whatever.
Yes.
Who approves that? Is that a board
That's an
approval?
HR
Is that,
function. That-
HR or?
Yeah, that comes down from, in my dealings with the HR, the executive director, Ms. Barbara Taylor, we would, and on the auxiliary side, that would be Ms. Lawrence, that we would convene to determine the best approach during those times.
And it would be your department determining if they're paid or not paid without any additional approval?
That is
By
correct,
superintendent
at
or
that
board?
time,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
I'd be kept abreast of that, I'm sure.
I might tell you, no, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, you would definitely be kept abreast of it.
Okay.
I'll just say too, that we are about to vote on a amendment to change the District of Innovation Plan. And if this whole thing with the PTA Council doesn't work, which I think it will, because those people are the most engaged of anyone in this whole district, as far as parents, that we could just change it again. So,
Motion?
motion to approve the amendment to the District of Innovation Plan.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposing?
Opposed?
One opposed. Motion carries. Next one, thank you, sir. Are you the
You're
next
welcome.
one? No, TASB. Consider approval of TASB update.
So this is a second reading of a lot of policies that were provided in your packet. I hope you had plenty of time to be able to look at those. There was some redlining, there was some blue. Dr. Gropel is in his shop along with Ms. Pine over there. Stuart Pine manages that. If you got any questions for them, you're more than welcome to ask a question at this time.
Any questions? Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. F, consider approval of local policies.
Same thing here. These are actually outside of the TASB policy update, and what we do is whenever we want to change some of these policies, at the same time, we bundle it so that it reduces the amount of cost that we have per policy to be adjusted. These are a couple of policies that we have discussed prior to. If you got any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those at this time.
Motion?
Move we approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. And G, purchase approval of amplified literacy curriculum.
Dr. Gropel, do you want to provide a brief synopsis of this, since this was not included in this last month's bundle of purchases? While he's finding that, I'll just go ahead and tell you that we have had this as part of our, with Mr. Washman and Ms. Atkins, our monthly agenda meetings for about the last 2 or 3 months. And to kind of show how the contract process works in Tyler ISD, we have a lot of people with their eyes on contracts and catching little nuances in those contracts that could be tripwires for current administration or future administrations is something we've gotten a little bit better at. We continue to get better at, and this is one of the ones that we feel like we can actually bring in front of the board now.
Yeah, the item in front of you is Amplify Literacy Curriculum. It's a high-quality instructional material approved by the state of Texas. We have 3 campuses, excuse me, that'll be utilizing this in Orr, Pete, and Austin. Austin is already using Amplify Curriculum. This is just an addition to student materials as well as training to provide our staff when they return next week to ultimately utilize an HQIM material, literacy material at those campuses that qualified through a school action fund grant that they applied for 2 years ago. They had a planning year. This will be the first year of implementation at those campuses.
So HQIM, high-quality instructional materials, are already approved. These relationships, these vendors are already approved by the state of Texas, that's correct?
Yeah, I would say they're bordering on recommended by the state.
Correct, and that was formulated through the 88th legislative session, empowering the Commissioner of Education to enact some of these things. What I'm trying to say on this deal is that one of the things that we value when we start talking about contractual relationships and agreements with vendors is things like if there is an issue, what county or what state are we going to resolve that issue in? Again, the agency has approved these vendors, and yet these contracts say that we're going to go to Delaware to perhaps, if we ever had some type of legal issue that we needed to talk about, or New York State or California. And so that's why it's taken a while to get here. It's our own state has approved these things, except in the agreements, it says we, you know.
We'd have to hear we would have to hear this one, I believe, in the state of Delaware. But now, the way the contract reads, any dispute would be heard in Smith County in Texas.
There you go. Okay, so just wanted to clarify that some of the stuff that well-intentioned stuff that might be approved in the legislative session every 2 years, get over to the agency and the rulemaking, and maybe they don't see that as important, but we do here in Smith County.
For sure.
Or at least your board council does over there, because they get on us all the time about that. Well, not all the time, some of the times.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to purchase Amplify literacy curriculum.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. We'll now go into executive session.
No action after.
No action after. We have to come back to dismiss.